What's good, King Gonda? It's your boy O'Shea Duke Jackson. Back at it again on the King Gonda YouTube channel. And before we start, make sure you give yourself a round of applause for today's episode. And look who we are here with today. The lovely, the attractive Afripolitan podcast. Let me go ahead and let you know a little bit about her. I'll let her tell her about herself.
Hi everyone. So thank you, O'Shea, for having me again on the channel. My name's Rennie. I'm the host of the Afripolitan podcast. So recently came onto YouTube a couple of months ago. So previous episodes are on Apple Podcast and also SoundCloud, but also now we have the YouTube channel. Also on Instagram as well. So please do follow and please subscribe. And the channel is just about, being an African in the diaspora, talking about the experiences and also some topics regarding to the Black community globally. So yeah, I'm happy to be here again today. Thank you.
All right. And we have a really good topic today. Shout out to, first of all, African Superstar, Black YouTube channel, which you're a moderator, and since you've reached out to me about a few months ago, you watched both my channels. You used to hate me, at first. You was a hater, but
have I ever hated you?
Well, you said I was from Alabama, but but anyways, we'll let that slide. But what's funny is the African Superstar Black, me and her had a recent collaboration. And that collaboration had everything to do with African American women going back to Ghana.
Yes.
And spending money on guys, right? And if that was something that happened, and then listen to her, I kind of figured, and you were really active in that chat. Yes, y'all out there doing it. Y'all out there doing. I saw you. You think that nobody see you, but we have the live stream chat. You was in there going in, okay? And I talked to today Rachel Nalumu, which I had talked to her on the phone, trying to do some things, and it seems like she also could hint at, she's a Canadian, yes, but Ugandan Canadian, right?
Yes.
And you're from the UK, right?
Yes, I'm based.
Hold on a second. Let's give me like the UK national anthem sound effect. Like, let's go ahead and play some of that while we in the background, right? So we kind of get familiar with, get in the mood. Keep it going too for a minute. Afripolitan, let me ask you this, because you're not born in Uganda. Talk to like how you're Ugandan also, but what's your background story with Uganda and all that?
Okay, yes. So like you said, I was born in London. So I've lived in the UK the whole of my life. Lived in England and Wales. So my connection to home in Uganda is basically just traveling there to visit family yearly. Sometimes Christmas, but I haven't. The past couple of years I've sort of gone during a non-peak season. But yeah, it's more of traveling to Uganda, staying there for like 2 weeks or so, then coming back. Okay.
No. So me, I love Kampala. I didn't like it before because the mosquitoes was tearing my ass up. When I first came to Kampala, I wanted to leave in the first year. I stayed in Tawatale. Shout out to Arthur and Cozy and his lovely wife. Yes. They house us at this Airbnb you guys are seeing on the screen, and we're supposedly going and checking them out. But Arthur and Cozy is a wonderful guy. He's a Canadian Ugandan also, but I've grown to love Kampala, and you see it's so much so I started this channel because I was so amazed at what was going on. But we know that it's different as if you're a guy. If you're a guy and you have a few dollars, and you have this beautiful face like mine. Women just fall out. You are you laughing? Hold on a second. Are you laughing? So it's not true? Hold on a second.
No, sorry. Continue.
You want me, but so it's different. So if I come there, I'm like, wow, I get, I'm a Christian, so I don't really be out there like that in the streets.
Sure.
But that now I love the Lord. But I can, for me, if you're a guy, you have $1,000 a month, $1,500 a month. It's okay. But what are the struggles? Because I know you love Uganda too. You've been all over the world. there would be a problem living in London in a city like that, and then moving to Uganda or Africa in general, because the guys, it's going to be a harder lifestyle for an African woman if she's from the West. Is it going to be harder for her to find a mate, do you think, if you were to move back to Uganda?
I mean, this is a very interesting question. And I don't even know where to start with it, because of course there are women and even men that do date people from like Uganda or people in Nigeria or whatever. There are people that do long distance relationships, and then maybe eventually they move back to the continent, or sometimes the partners move to the West, wherever they are. I think specifically talking about women going back to Uganda and then finding partners there or settling there, I think the challenges would come I think there will be clashes maybe if you're with somebody that maybe hasn't traveled out of the country before, maybe isn't, sort of cultured or exposed, even educated, because I think, as you've already been there, so, and because you have business there and stuff, you've met loads of different people. You've met people that, like you said, the Airbnb where you're staying, it's a Canadian Ugandan. So you've met people who are from Uganda, but they live abroad. And that mindset is completely different to Ugandans who have always been in Uganda and they haven't traveled. And I think, especially if you're talking about a woman that has maybe studied here in the UK, has had a good job in the UK, is used to traveling to Europe or to Asia, to whatnot, and then you then go back home and then you find a man that's never even been out of East Africa, it's not going to work. I mean, things have changed now, especially with social media, and I think globalization and whatnot, that when you do go to Uganda now, there's hotels, there's bars, there's all of these, fine dining places that you have the same experience that you would have in the West, but you're just in the continent. So that type of lifestyle, you can live that in Uganda and in Africa and even more. But the reality is, if a woman's trying to find a man on that level in Uganda, it's going to be quite difficult. Yes, there are successful men and there are successful women in Uganda and in Africa overall.
Oh, absolutely.
But they're not, they're not the majority. And like the average lifestyle that you can live here in the UK or in America doesn't compare to the average lifestyle in the continent, if that makes sense.
Make a lot of sense. And again, I was speaking to Rachel Naluma. We didn't go into great detail, but Rachel Naluma, she comes from a pretty good successful family.
Yes.
And a lot of Ugandan women who are coming back that I've noticed, because I've seen some of them on her channel. Shout out to Rachel. I have been stalking your channel, boo. It's not my fault. But there's been a lot of successful women from the United States. There's one lady in particular from the UK that has like a human resources company that's in Uganda that we were supposed to do. A very attractive lady too, young lady. We were supposed to interview her this week, but she canceled. So I think next week is what we're going to be doing. And just successful and they have their own startups and firms and
yes,
are they managing their family's business and things like that.
Yes.
And but they're like really single, and I'm noticing that from because African Superstar was born in the United States and really kind of chose Ghana. So it wasn't like she was technically a Ghanaian. She kind of chose Ghana, like how I chose Uganda. So we're not into the loop, but I know that you're from Iganga, right? So, and most of the people live in the bigger cities like Kampala. Do you think that for some of the ladies, if they move back to the continent, they get to a situation where like, okay, the continent has these opportunities. I know I have market for the business. I know I can grow the business, but I'm probably going to end up like, if I can't find the guy I want, I'll just get do the whole bad black situation where what bad black is, right?
Of course.
Shout out to bad black. Bad black is crazy. I'm gonna just spend money on some young guy that's looking really good and booty clapping sounds, and you already know what happens with that, right? So we gonna play them. Do you think that a lot of successful women coming from the Americans and from the Englands and from the diaspora, do you think that this is really happening from Ugandan women who are coming back that are not married?
I do think those type of situations do happen where women from the West do go back to Uganda or other countries, and there's this whole dynamic of being in relationships with younger guys and being the breadwinner in the relationship and spending on men. Like, there is that culture, but I do also believe that there is like a clique of affluent eligible men for those successful women that do go back to Uganda or to wherever they originate from. But I think it goes back to what I was saying earlier, is that like the percentage of those men there's not loads of them. Like, of course there's going to be a group of guys who have studied okay in the UK, in Europe, in Canada and USA, and they've gone back. But when you narrow it down to the guys that are single and not in relationships or not married, I don't know how many of those men there would be. So like you said, maybe that's how sometimes women end up being in those type of situations where they're dating men that are less successful than them in terms of financial and maybe their educational profile. But I think also it's really tricky as well, because then there's also we see it on YouTube all the time. There's even issues of dating in UK, the black community in the UK, and also in America. So it's like, do you know what I mean? It's crazy.
Let me ask you this, because I know I've been to London before. Shout out to Edmonton. N9 in the building, Enfield. I was over there kicking it, but I was doing my thing. But don't be mad at me though, because you was hating on me. But I really like London. But I did get shout out to Brother Falcon Black. He kind of explained to me, what London was really all about, and how the Black British community is really like a microcosm of like Caribbeans and some Jamaicans and some people who were born there. And so how is it? I want to kind of like take a loop out of before we even go back to Africa, because we know how the African American community works, because it's a much larger community than, I would say, the Black British community.
Yes.
But what about Black men who have money in the UK? What? Because I know there's has to be some, right? Because obviously I would assume there's some.
Yes.
Is it the Black men in the UK that are doing very well? How hard is it for the average Black woman to access the Black men who are doing very well in the UK? I know there's some. What difficulties is that in trying to access those guys who are in the top 20%?
I think it's challenging, but it's not at the same time. And why I say that is because, first of all, Black London is quite small. So I think, not even I think, if you go to like certain events, or certain people that work in certain industries and whatnot, and then you get into those sort of circles, then it's not easy to connect with the type of men that Black high value men. But I think like it's a bit different. Like in America, you guys have like a Black middle class. You have places like Atlanta. There's so many different places. When we've been talking before, where Mississippi and whatever, where there's areas and there's a community of Black people, and they're all in that area and they're all doing well. We don't have that in the UK. And then also as well, the sort of high value men, if we're talking about Kevin Samuel standards, where they're not entertainers, they're not rappers, you know, they're not their money doesn't come from like social media or that type of thing. They're obviously going to be in white circles. So if you're talking about those type of men, then yeah, it is hard for, you know, the average black woman to access them. But if you're talking in terms of maybe people who are in the entertainment industry, I would say that going back to Black London is small. If you go to certain club nights or certain events, you know, you'll see like people who are famous on Instagram, or people who are known on YouTube, or, you know, people that are known for doing podcasts because they might host events. And then you might see like famous musicians at certain club events and stuff like that. So in terms of accessing like people with status within the entertainment industry, I would say they're more accessible in Black London in the UK, as opposed to corporate high value men, black men. But even so, the ones that, you know, the entertainers, the rappers, or whatever you want to call them, obviously, you know, there's this whole thing of them liking a certain type of woman and all of this stuff, and then all of the women are after them. So yeah, to cut the story short, getting close to the corporate black high value man is not really that easy in London for the average woman. Okay,
because I got the kind of sense from African Superstar that she feels like, for whatever reason, women like yourself, women like her, because she lived in the UK she lived in the UK for some time. She felt like going back to the continent, that she was exotic, okay, to the guys there. So, and we definitely know that brothers and you know that there are a lot of guys in Uganda that have money. They are holding, like Ghana, Nigeria, and Tanzania. Like, if you got money out there, you are holding, like, you know, brothers be holding out there. So let me ask you this, because you've been to Uganda many times. Obviously, you're from Uganda.
I'm from East and West. I have to make that clear. I have to rep both sides.
Okay, you know, East and West Coast, right? So okay, so because I hear ladies like, because in Uganda, because you have the guys who have, there's poverty obviously, but you have some guys who are doing really good, guys who own farms, guys who own TV stations, guys who own a lot of stuff, which you don't see in America or London that much. The guys who actually own industries. What's the challenge in getting those kind of guys in Uganda for a woman that's either in Uganda or Ghana or one of those places, in your opinion? What's the challenge in obtaining one of those type of, because those guys are there for sure.
So are you saying like obtaining like actual men with money in Uganda, as in like a businessman?
Yes.
I think again also with Uganda, like for example, I'll give a story of how when I done my dissertation for my final year at university, I went to Uganda. I interviewed some fashion designers, such as Sylvia Wari, Gloria Ravmuno. I also interviewed a journalist, Edgar Bate. I think he was working for the Daily Monitor at the time. I also spoke to a textile lecturer at Makerere University. And also then Gloria, because when I went to interview her, I went with my cousins. So she was like, oh yeah, she invited us out to this party for New Year's Eve. And the party was at Sadil's house in Uganda. Okay. So I feel as if, I think in Uganda, or maybe I'm wrong because you've also been there, but it's like, I think if you go to like certain spots or, you network with certain people, then you can kind of get in those circles. So if you're a woman, maybe you go to the places where, maybe certain businessmen might go, or to go to certain country clubs, or the golf club, or certain hotels or whatever. So I think it's, as a woman, positioning yourself in those type of environments, because also Uganda as well, there's not like loads of different places where you're going to find these particular men. You know that these men are going to be at certain places only, and everyone knows those places. Do you know what I mean? Am I making sense?
yeah, you're making sense. But let me also ask this too, because one of the things that, because I was going to shout out to Kabir, right? Kabir Country Club, which is also on my Sudhir Rupiella. That, and I think he has what's that resort in Manyonyo he has? What is it called? Speak Resort. Yeah. So I've never hung out there, but one of the things that I kind of figured out is, like, in Uganda, I've never been to Ghana, but I can just imagine. It's like a very young country with a lot of college age women and just a lot going on. Like, like neck breaking, like, oh my God, like, what's that? You know what I mean? Not that I was looking at them because I love the Lord.
Yeah, so you were. Same with your chest.
I wasn't looking at nothing but these scriptures. And I kind of got the feel from just interacting with those guys that worked out with something like that. Like, these guys kind of felt, although they wouldn't say it, like they could access almost anybody, and like women were like real. There was a lot of competition for. You could feel it, right? Because when you're in Uganda, like, even if you're in like almost every African country, you're in traffic, somebody trying to sell you something in the traffic, and the men who have money there, they really have, like, it's one thing to have money in, let's say, in the USA or Poland. Having money in Uganda, it's another, like, now you can have servants, you got a maid, you have everything, and it kind of feels like these guys who had this big money, they're either all married and they all had like side chicks, and it's kind of the culture, and like it seems like the ladies, a lot of them were like accepting to the fact, like, okay, I know I'm gonna date him, I know he has a wife, or I know my husband's married, I know he got side chicks. That's just kind of how it is. And I know for a fact that women that coming from like the Western cultures, most women are having that, like, are being understandable to that, and that could be a really big issue. Do you see it the same way that I see it? Because I'm pretty sure that's what I saw.
So you're absolutely right. I think it's not even just something that pertains to Uganda. There's a big culture of that, I know, in Nigeria as well, and sort of other African countries. But this thing of like African men, like, it's a known thing, especially in our culture, of men having more than one woman. That's even when you go back into history, polygamy has always been a thing within African culture. So even in the modern day now, it's not unknown to know of a man who has more than one wife, or who has more than two women, and maybe they know about each other and stuff like that. That is something that's known, and it's normalized, basically. It's not something unusual to know of. And you're also very right about this culture of, like, I don't know what to call them, like sugar babies or whatever, but that is a big thing. And also as well, especially during the elections, there was this big talk of how Uganda, like, I think 80% or something, 75% of the population is like under 30, which I never used to hear about. But then now all of a sudden it's like we're this like young country and whatnot. So yeah, there is this big culture of university students or young girls, and their basically their lifestyle is dependent on an affluent man who's most of the time, like you said, married. But I think also, I think being in the UK and being in the continent's different. Getting a job here in the UK is okay. There's challenges and whatnot, but it's a lot way more easier than getting a job back in Uganda. And even if women are or even men are to get jobs, the reality is for them to get a job where they'll be able to maybe rent their own place, or be able to rent with friends or family or whatever, and lead a comfortable life and not be struggling. it's very, very challenging. And then, there's challenges of maybe people not always being paid on time. I'm sure you've seen there's been strikes of teachers, or doctors, whatever other important job roles where they're striking because they're not getting paid. So the standard of life is harder back home. So if a woman is finding a man that is gonna pay for you to live in a nice area, to have a nice flat, get you a car, give you an allowance, and okay, you just have to see him every so often. A lot of women aren't going to turn that down. Do you know what I mean? And
right.
And there's this, I'm sure there's this whole big thing of, especially now because social media is popular in Uganda even in the continent as much as it is here in the West. There's this whole thing of Instagram, slay queen, and doing all of that stuff. So a lot of women, a lot of girls want that lifestyle, especially if you're in university and there's an older man that's going to be paying you, giving you money and doing all of this stuff. They don't have loans like us in the UK or in America, where you don't need to go to the extreme to get money or to survive. But there's definitely that culture, and it's not just specifically in Uganda. In other countries in Africa, there's this whole big culture of being a side chick, and it's normalized, and it's like, and what? Because sometimes the side chicks are living a better life than the main
wife. let me also talk about this part also, because we have this new dating show that Kim and Jill need to revamp. No, what? Don't blame me, because they're the ones to blame this time. If anybody got a problem with the current dating show with Kingana, I'm not as involved with Kingana as I once was when I was there. So you can blame this on them. All right. There was a young lady by the name of Emmy, and maybe we can play a clip just here where she talks about and we'll see if they can get it. But she says that she's from I think a pretty decent family, and she has her own car, she has money, and a lot of men are intimidated by her because even the guys that got money, right? Because she has her own car, she has money, so she doesn't need to ask them for that. So I would think, because a woman like yourself who would come back to Uganda, that would have something to offer. You'd have some money, you would have already calculated these things, you'd already have some support. Do you think that for some of the African brothers that are, a woman like yourself, no matter where you are, that you would intimidate guys, even the men that had something, that it would be intimidating to them because you have more flexibility in your finances?
I don't know. Maybe that's a question for you to answer. I'll give you what I think. I think with the lady that was on the show, I can generally understand why men would feel intimidated, because it's like, what the majority of men in Uganda, the average man in Uganda is not going to be able to provide her the lifestyle that she gives herself. That's straight facts. So a lot, and the average is the majority. So that means there's going to be a lot of men that aren't gonna be on her level, type of thing. And talking about women coming from the continent coming from the West back to Uganda, I think that's what the challenges would be like. If you're a woman that wants a man, with a certain profile, a high value man, there are going to be challenges dating with Uganda, because those high value men aren't, they're not the majority. And like we just discussed earlier on, those successful business Ugandan men, the majority of them are already married. So there are challenges there. And it's funny that when I was in Uganda a couple of years ago, there was a man that said to me, so he was like, and also I was even talking to another lady as well. There's two different styles, but first of all, the man said to me, also, who takes you out? And I was like, I take myself out, as in. And he was like, what? So when you go out, you pay for yourself? And I was like, yeah. And I was talking from not in a scenario of being on a date, with a man or being in a relationship, but on a scenario of just like going out with friends, like generally, like, yeah, I'll go out, you know, I'll take myself out like with my friends and whatever. And that was such a weird, and this was like just an average Ugandan man. That was such a weird concept that, oh, you take yourself out. And even I was speaking with another lady and she was like, so who pays for like your stuff? So I'm sure, as you know, back home, there's this big culture of men looking after women, men being providers, and rightly so, I believe that they should be. You know, if you're a man who you're finding a woman that she has a car, she's a hotel manager, you know, she does all of these things, she's well traveled, the average Ugandan man isn't going to be able to do all of that for a woman. Like, it's not realistic. So definitely there will be challenges with when a man knows that he can't provide you with what you you know you could already provide yourself as a woman. I don't know what you think about that, O'Shea.
No, you know, I think in any culture, obviously in the London or United States, it's more common to see somebody, you know, drive themselves or pay for their own things, because we're coming from more of a women having a lot of stuff. I think it's quite shocking for maybe even if a guy has money and you guys like, oh, you have your own car, or yeah, even if I find a girl has her own car in Uganda, I'm like shocked myself, right? Like, you have your own car? Like, oh, shit, you know? I think some guys could be, you know, intimidated because, let us be honest, some men that have money and they know if the woman needs money, they could try to use it against them. So if a woman already has her money together and stuff like that, so then the guy is like, why I can't use that against her, you know what I mean? So some guys could be threatened by that. I definitely think that in East Africa, I think Kenya is a little bit more better with women entrepreneurs and women have more money than in Uganda. I think I felt that culture is a little bit better in like Kenya than UG. But yeah, I think that women from the West, women who are educated in the West, if they come to Africa, and if that person has not been educated in the West, especially the school is good, you know, then they could feel a little inferior, especially little things like, oh, she has an English accent, he has an American accent, you know, she speaks like perfect English. It's like, it can make a guy feel bad, no matter how much money he has, you know, because it's like, hey, you know, your woman is she's smarter than you or something like that. I could see that kind of thing happening also. But yeah, it's been a hell of a show. Unless you have something you want to add to the conversation, tell them about your channel.
Yeah, so please do subscribe, talk about issues pertaining to the Black community. So some of you know the debates that come up on social media. So the last video I did was talking about this whole topic of Black British actors playing African American roles, and I talked about my viewpoints on that. I work in the fashion industry, so I also talk about my experiences of being a Black creative in the UK. So yeah, please do come over and subscribe, and also follow us on Instagram as well, the Afripolitan podcast. And thank you so much again for having me, O'Shea.
All right. So guys, go to the first comment pinned to the top. Check out the Afripolitan podcast. You know, this is our third or fourth collaboration. He always has. They like listening to you because you have that British accent. So the watch time was always long. Like, oh, I like to hear her talk. You know, give me the UK music in the background. So as we get about here, subscribe, hit the bell, and everything, guys. Thank you so much for being here on Kinganda. And as you know, keep it real, Kinganda forever. We are out.